Traveling with medications sounds simple, but in 2026 it's becoming one of the easiest ways for passengers to face delays, extra screening, or even confiscation if they don't know the updated rules. TSA doesn't clearly explain medication policies, and airlines rarely warn passengers about what has quietly changed. Many travelers assume that prescriptions, vitamins, or medical liquids are automatically exempt from scrutiny, but that assumption causes more problems than almost anything else at airport security. Seniors and frequent flyers are especially affected because they often carry multiple medications, medical devices, or supplements that don't fit neatly into standard TSA categories. What makes this even more stressful is that officers apply rules differently depending on how items are packed, labeled, and declared. In 2026, TSA has tightened documentation expectations, expanded screening of powders and liquids, and increased discretion at checkpoints when medications aren't prepared properly. The problem is, most of these updates are buried in policy language passengers never see. As a result, people are stopped, questioned, or embarrassed without understanding what they did wrong. This video is designed to remove that confusion. We're breaking down exactly how to travel with medications in 2026, what TSA expects, what they don't clearly say, and how to protect yourself from unnecessary delays or stress. These aren't loopholes or tricks. These are rules and practices TSA already uses, but doesn't explain in plain language. Knowing them ahead of time can save you time, protect your health, and keep your trip from starting on the wrong foot. If you want to stay ahead of airline and TSA changes, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We share updates travelers need before they reach the airport, not after it's too late. Now let's get into the new TSA medication rules every traveler needs to know in 2026. 1. Prescription medications are allowed, but only if you pack them the right way. One of the biggest mistakes travelers make in 2026 is assuming that having a prescription automatically protects them from TSA issues. TSA allows prescription medications, but how you pack them now matters more than ever. Officers are paying closer attention to loose pills, unmarked containers, and mixed medications. Seniors often use pill organizers for convenience, but TSA does not officially recognize organizers as proof of prescription. This doesn't mean pill organizers are banned, but it does mean they increase the chances of questions or delays. TSA rarely explains this clearly. If pills are not in original labeled bottles, officers may ask additional questions or send bags for secondary screening. Another overlooked detail is quantity. TSA does not set a strict limit on the number of prescription pills you can carry, but large amounts without clear labeling raise red flags. Travelers carrying several months' supply often face longer screening simply because officers need to verify legitimacy. Another hidden rule involves visibility. TSA prefers medications to be easily accessible, not buried under clothing or electronics. When officers can quickly see and identify medications, screening moves faster. Seniors often pack medications deep inside carry-ons to protect them, but that can actually slow the process. Another important detail is declaration. TSA does not require you to declare pills verbally in most cases, but if you are carrying liquids, gels, or injectable medications, declaring them upfront reduces confusion. Officers are trained to respond better when passengers proactively explain medical items instead of waiting for a bag search. Another change in 2026 involves documentation expectations. TSA does not require you to carry a doctor's note for pills, but having one can resolve disputes quickly if there's confusion. This is especially helpful for controlled substances or medications with unfamiliar names. Another mistake seniors make is assuming TSA officers understand all medications. They don't. Officers are trained in security, not medicine. Clear labeling, separation, and calm explanation matter. TSA also advises against transferring prescription labels onto other containers. Labels should match the container holding the medication. When labels and contents don't match, screening becomes more complicated. Another overlooked issue is international carryover. Travelers returning to the US sometimes keep foreign prescriptions in original overseas packaging. TSA may not recognize these labels, increasing scrutiny. Keeping medications clearly separated and organized reduces stress. TSA doesn't say this directly, but passengers who pack medications clearly, label properly, and avoid shortcuts move through security with far fewer issues. Knowing this in advance prevents delays that could easily be avoided. 2. Liquid medications follow different rules than regular liquids. Liquid medications remain one of the most misunderstood TSA categories in 2026. Many travelers still believe all liquids must fit the 3-1-1 rule. but medically necessary liquids are treated differently. TSA allows liquid medications in quantities larger than 3.4 ounces, but only if they are properly identified and declared. TSA does not automatically exempt liquids just because they are medicine. Seniors often place liquid medications in toiletry bags without declaring them, which increases the chance of bag checks. Another critical detail is separation. TSA expects liquid medications to be removed from your bag during screening unless instructed otherwise. Keeping them separate speeds up inspection. TSA does not clearly announce this at checkpoints, which causes confusion. Another hidden rule involves containers. Liquid medications do not need to be in original pharmacy bottles, but TSA strongly prefers labeled containers. Unlabeled liquids, even if medically necessary, trigger additional screening. Another change in 2026 involves cooling packs. Gel packs, ice packs, and frozen packs used to cool medications are allowed, but only if they are completely frozen when screened. If partially melted, TSA may classify them as liquids and subject them to restrictions. Many travelers lose expensive cooling packs because of this detail. Another overlooked issue is volume consistency. TSA officers may test liquids for explosives, which can delay screening. Seniors often panic during testing, assuming something is wrong. It's routine. Another secret is that TSA cannot refuse medically necessary liquids solely because of size. However, they can delay you if verification is needed. Declaring liquids calmly at the start prevents confusion. Another important detail involves syringes and injectables. TSA allows them, but officers may request visual confirmation of accompanying medication. Carrying injectables without the medication increases scrutiny. Another mistake is packing liquid medication in checked bags. Temperature changes and lost luggage pose serious risks. TSA recommends carry-on transport for all essential medications. They don't emphasize this strongly, but it's critical. Understanding that medical liquids follow a separate rule set allows travelers to prepare confidently. When seniors know they can carry necessary liquids legally and how to present them properly, TSA screening becomes far less stressful and far more predictable. 3. Supplements, vitamins, and powders are getting more scrutiny in 2026. One of the most surprising changes in 2026 is how aggressively TSA is screening supplements, vitamins, and powdered medications. Many travelers assume that because these items are sold over the counter, they won't attract attention. That assumption is now outdated. TSA has expanded powder screening protocols, and this affects seniors more than almost any other group. Protein powders, vitamin mixes, electrolyte packets, fiber supplements, and even powdered medications can all trigger additional screening if not packed correctly. TSA does not clearly explain that powders over a certain volume are more likely to be tested. When powders exceed roughly 12 ounces, officers may open containers, test samples, or delay bags for inspection. Seniors often travel with large supplement containers for long trips, not realizing this increases scrutiny. Another overlooked issue is original packaging. TSA strongly prefers supplements to remain in original labeled containers. Transferring powders into plastic bags or unlabeled jars almost guarantees secondary screening. Officers are not trained to identify supplements by appearance alone, and unlabeled powders raise security concerns. Another mistake is mixing different powders into one container for convenience. TSA views mixed powders as suspicious because they can't be easily identified. Another hidden detail is moisture. Powders that clump due to humidity may be flagged more frequently during X-ray scans. Seniors often pack supplements tightly to save space, unintentionally increasing suspicion. Another 2026 change involves international supplements. Vitamins purchased abroad may have unfamiliar labels or languages, which slows screening. TSA may request explanations or additional checks simply because officers can't verify contents quickly. Another important point is that TSA does not limit the amount of supplements you can carry, but volume affects screening time. Declaring large powder quantities voluntarily can reduce confusion. TSA does not require declaration, but proactive communication often helps. Another overlooked detail is accessibility. Keeping supplements near the top of your bag allows officers to inspect them quickly without unpacking everything. Seniors who bury supplements deep in carry-ons often experience longer delays. Another misconception is that supplements are treated like food. They're not. TSA applies different screening logic because powders can conceal prohibited substances. TSA doesn't advertise this distinction, which is why travelers are caught off guard. Understanding how supplements are screened in 2026 allows seniors to pack smarter, reduce delays, and avoid unnecessary stress at security. 4. Medical devices and accessories must be declared the right way. Traveling with medical devices in 2026 requires more awareness than ever, yet TSA provides very little guidance unless you ask. Devices such as CPAP machines, blood pressure monitors, glucose meters, nebulizers, hearing aid accessories, and mobility supports are allowed, but how you present them matters. One major mistake seniors make mistake is assuming TSA officers automatically recognize medical equipment on X-ray. Many devices look like electronics or mechanical parts, which can trigger bag searches if not declared. TSA does not require advance notice, but informing officers that you are carrying medical devices can speed screening. Another hidden detail is that CPAP machines are allowed as an extra carry-on medical item, but they must be removed from cases for screening unless enclosed in a clear bag. TSA does not always announce this clearly, causing confusion and delays. Another overlooked issue is contamination. TSA recommends placing medical devices in clear plastic bags during screening to protect them from germs. Many seniors are unaware of this option and expose sensitive equipment unnecessarily. Another 2026 update involves batteries. Devices with lithium batteries are under increased scrutiny. TSA allows them, but loose batteries must be properly protected against short-circuiting. Seniors often carry spare batteries without covers, increasing screening time. Another critical detail is documentation. TSA does not require medical proof for devices, but having a brief note or manufacturer information can resolve confusion quickly. Another mistake is packing essential devices in checked luggage. Lost or delayed bags can disrupt health routines. TSA strongly recommends carry-on transport for all essential medical equipment, but this advice is rarely emphasized. Another secret is that TSA cannot force you to power on medical devices if doing so could damage them. Seniors often comply out of fear, but you can explain limitations calmly. Another overlooked right is requesting manual inspection instead of X-ray for certain devices. TSA allows this, but passengers must ask. Officers won't suggest it. Understanding how to declare and protect medical devices in 2026 gives seniors confidence. When devices are presented clearly and calmly, TSA screening becomes smoother, safer, and far less stressful. 5. Controlled medications. Require extra awareness in 2026. Controlled medications are one of the biggest sources of TSA trouble in 2026, and it's something most travelers are never warned about. These medications are legal, prescribed, and medically necessary, yet they attract far more attention at security checkpoints. TSA does not prohibit controlled substances, but officers are trained to look more closely at them because of abuse potential and diversion concerns. Seniors are especially affected because many common prescriptions fall into this category. Pain medications, sleep aids, anxiety medications, and certain stimulants are all routinely flagged during screening. One major mistake is carrying controlled medications without clear labeling. In 2026, TSA officers are more likely to question pills that are not in original pharmacy containers when they are controlled substances. Pill organizers increase convenience, but also increase scrutiny. Another overlooked issue is quantity. Carrying large amounts of controlled medication, even with a valid prescription, can raise questions if it appears inconsistent with trip length. TSA does not publish quantity limits, but officers are trained to flag unusually large supplies. Seniors traveling for extended periods often carry several months' worth, which can trigger secondary screening. Another hidden detail is international carryover. Medications legally prescribed in other countries may not be recognized easily by TSA officers if labels are unfamiliar or written in another language. This doesn't make them illegal, but it does slow verification. Carrying an English translation or doctor's note can help resolve confusion quickly. Another important change in 2026 involves visibility during screening. TSA may request closer inspection of controlled medications, but they cannot confiscate them without cause. Seniors often panic when bags are pulled aside, assuming something is wrong. Most of the time, officers are simply confirming legitimacy. Another mistake is volunteering too much information under pressure. TSA officers do not need your medical history. Calm, minimal explanations are enough. Another overlooked protection is that TSA does not share medication details with airlines or other agencies unless required by law. Seniors often fear privacy violations, but routine screening does not trigger reporting. Understanding that controlled medications are allowed, but require careful packing and labeling, helps seniors avoid stress. TSA doesn't clearly explain this balance. When travelers prepare properly, controlled medications rarely become a problem. 6. Traveling across state and international lines adds hidden medication risks. Another TSA secret in 2026 is that medication rules don't exist in isolation. While TSA focuses on security, other laws can affect travelers once they cross state or international borders. Seniors often assume that if TSA allows a medication through security, it's legal everywhere else. That assumption can cause serious issues. TSA does not routinely warn passengers about state-specific or international restrictions. For domestic travel, certain medications may be legal in one state and restricted in another. TSA does not enforce these laws at the checkpoint, but law enforcement at destinations can. Seniors traveling with cannabis-based medications or compounded prescriptions often face confusion because legality varies widely. Another hidden risk involves international travel. TSA screening is only one step. Customs and border authorities apply different rules. Medications allowed through through TSA may still be restricted or prohibited abroad. Seniors often pack medications assuming TSA approval equals international approval. It doesn't. Another overlooked detail is documentation. Some countries require original prescriptions, doctor letters, or import permits for certain medications. TSA does not check for this, so passengers are caught off guard later. Another 2026 issue involves transit airports. Connecting flights through other countries can expose travelers to local medication laws, even if the final destination allows them. Seniors often don't realize that layovers matter. Another mistake is carrying medications purchased abroad back into the U.S. TSA may allow them through screening, but customs officers may question or confiscate them if documentation is unclear. Another hidden issue is labeling standards. International pharmacy labels may not include information TSA officers expect, increasing screening time. Seniors often experience delays simply because packaging looks unfamiliar. TSA does not explain how to prepare for these scenarios. The safest approach is researching destination rules in advance and carrying clear documentation. TSA screening is only one layer of travel compliance. Understanding how medications interact with broader laws protects seniors from problems beyond the checkpoint. 7. Medical marijuana and CBD products create major confusion at TSA in 2026. Medical marijuana and CBD products are one of the most misunderstood areas of TSA screening in 2026, especially for seniors who legally use them for pain, sleep, or anxiety. TSA does not clearly explain how these items are treated, which causes travelers to make risky assumptions. TSA's role is security, not drug enforcement, but that does not mean marijuana products are automatically safe to carry. TSA officers are required to report suspected violations of federal law, and marijuana remains illegal at the federal level. Seniors often assume that state legality protects them at airports. It doesn't. TSA does not actively search for drugs, but if marijuana or THC products are discovered during screening, officers must involve law enforcement. Another overlooked issue is CBD labeling. Many CBD products claim to be THC-free, but inconsistent labeling or unclear packaging can raise suspicion. TSA officers are not chemists. They rely on appearance and labeling, not marketing claims. Seniors carrying oils, gummies, or tinctures often face delays because these products resemble prohibited substances. Another 2026 issue involves liquids. CBD oils fall under liquid rules unless medically exempt, and many seniors forget to declare them. This leads to bag searches where the product is discovered unintentionally. Another hidden risk involves dosage forms. Edibles and capsules are harder to identify quickly, increasing scrutiny. Seniors often carry these items loosely without original packaging, which increases risk. Another mistake is assuming a medical card guarantees protection. TSA does not recognize state-issued medical marijuana cards as exemptions. Officers cannot ignore federal law because of state documentation. Another overlooked detail is international travel. Carrying marijuana or CBD products across borders is extremely risky, even if TSA screening doesn't stop you. Customs enforcement is far stricter. TSA doesn't warn passengers about this distinction. Seniors often learn the hard way. The safest approach in 2026 is avoiding marijuana and THC products entirely when flying, regardless of state legality. TSA doesn't clearly say this, but the risk is real. Understanding this prevents serious legal trouble. 8. Timing, disclosure, and attitude can determine how TSA handles your medications. One of the biggest TSA secrets in 2026 is that how you communicate matters almost as much as what you carry. Seniors often experience smoother screening when they disclose medical items calmly and early, rather than waiting for officers to discover them during a bag search. TSA does not instruct passengers on when or how to disclose medications, but proactive communication often reduces tension. Another overlooked factor is timing. Declaring medications while placing items on the belt gives officers context before questions arise. Waiting until a bag is pulled aside increases scrutiny. Another hidden detail is tone. Calm, neutral explanations lead to faster resolutions than defensive or apologetic responses. TSA officers are trained to assess behavior, not guilt. Seniors sometimes overshare medical details out of nervousness. TSA does not need your diagnosis. Clear, simple statements are enough. Another mistake is reacting emotionally to delays. Frustration often escalates screening unnecessarily. Officers respond better to patience and clarity. Another overlooked issue is body language. Rushing, grabbing items, or hovering over officers during inspection increases suspicion. Giving officers space speeds the process. Another important detail is consistency. If your explanation doesn't match what officers see on X-ray, screening becomes more detailed. Seniors sometimes forget what they packed or where it's located, which creates confusion. Another 2026 change involves officer discretion. Officers are more likely to resolve questions quickly when passengers appear prepared and informed. TSA does not advertise this, but experience shows it matters. Understanding that timing, disclosure, and attitude influence outcomes gives seniors an advantage. When travelers know how to present medications calmly and clearly, TSA screening becomes far less stressful and far more predictable. 9. Packing strategy matters more than the medication itself. One of the biggest TSA secrets in 2026 is that how you pack medications often determines how smoothly you pass through security, not what medications you carry. TSA does not clearly explain this, but experienced travelers know that organization can prevent most screening problems. Seniors often pack medications wherever space allows, mixing them with clothing, electronics, and toiletries. This makes X-ray images cluttered and difficult for officers to interpret, increasing the chance of bag searches. TSA prefers medications to be grouped together and easy to identify. When officers can immediately recognize a medication section in your bag, screening moves faster. Another overlooked issue is accessibility. Essential medications should always be in your carry-on, never checked luggage. Lost or delayed bags can disrupt treatment schedules and cause serious health issues. TSA recommends this but doesn't emphasize how critical it is. Another hidden detail involves layering. Placing medications underneath dense items like laptops or power banks increases X-ray confusion. Seniors often pack heavier items on top to protect pills, unintentionally creating delays. Another mistake is overpacking medications without separating daily use items from backups. TSA officers are more comfortable when quantities appear logical and organized. Another overlooked factor is visibility during inspection. Clear pouches or organizers allow officers to see contents without opening every container. TSA does not require clear bags, but they help. Another secret is consistency. If medications are scattered throughout your bag, officers may suspect you are hiding something. This isn't stated publicly, but behavior patterns matter. Another issue is repacking stress. Seniors rushing after screening sometimes misplace medications. Taking a moment to repack calmly prevents loss. TSA doesn't track forgotten items, but passengers suffer the consequences. Packing medications thoughtfully reduces stress, delays, and mistakes. Traveling with medications in 2026 doesn't have to be stressful, confusing, or intimidating when you know what TSA actually expects and what they don't clearly explain. As you've learned in this video, most problems at security don't happen because passengers are breaking rules. They happen because people aren't given the full picture ahead of time. How you pack, label, declare, and communicate about your medications can make the difference between a smooth checkpoint and an unnecessary delay. These rules aren't meant to scare you away from traveling. They're meant to help you protect your health, your time, and your peace of mind. When you arrive prepared, TSA screening becomes predictable instead of overwhelming. If this video helped you feel more confident about flying with medications, make sure to like it so it reaches more travelers who need this information. Subscribe to the channel for regular airline and TSA updates that airports don't explain clearly. And don't forget to share this video with friends or family who travel with prescriptions, supplements, or medical devices, because having the right information before a flight can prevent stress, delays, and costly mistakes.